Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Women's Self-Defense Summit, where top self-defense experts share their expertise to help you elevate and flourish your self-confidence to live inspired and empowered. My name is Kinko Hamilton, and now I'm delighted to be speaking with Melissa Soalt. Melissa Soalt is a women's self-defense pioneer, a Black Belt Hall of Fame recipient, former trauma psychotherapist, and creator of FierceandFemale self-defense. A forerunner in full force, padded assailant, scenario training, her approach is practical and transformative. She has taught thousands of women how to protect themselves from danger and, when all else fails, find their fears, reconnecting deep-seated powers to resist attack and live bolder, fuller, courageous lives. Melissa has been featured in national and international media and has fought overseas. She provides private online training, mentors self-defense instructors, and is at work on her book. Now, Melissa is be sharing with us, Not Me, Not Today. Essential sexual assault and rape defense strategy women must know. I'm so delighted to be speaking with you, Melissa, and so excited about this topic. Welcome to the summit.
Thank you, Kinko. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Yes, I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted that you're doing this. And yeah, helping women become stronger, safer, self-possessed is my life's work. 35 years now. I'm an old timer. And the topic of sexual assault is so important. Sexual assault is pandemic. Violence against women is pandemic. It's universal fear, the fear of being assaulted. It's a universal concern, safety. I mean, I've taught all over the world, and it's just so critical that at this time, as women are, becoming more empowered and rising up, that we really take control of this and that we do everything we can to make changes in society and culture to stop this and also empower ourselves and learn what we can do to be stronger and to stop this plight against us. It's critical. So thank you for having me here. The timing is perfect. So I wanted to say a couple of things before I get into the material, the kind of nuts and bolts of prevention and defense, which is also that where I'm coming from and where I think the summit is coming from, we're not blaming women. By teaching women and empowering them with skills and strategies, this is not about blaming the victim. Obviously, the real biggest change that needs to happen is, like I said, in the culture, in the boys will be boys kind of mentality, and in the structures and mindsets that enable and encourage and allow, rape culture, if you will, and the taking against women's consent and all that stuff. That's what underlies violence against women, sexual violence against women. And that's premier. That's first and foremost. That being said, that needing to change, we also really need to be our own best protectors. You're the only one who's with you all the time. So you're in the best position to protect yourself. And so we really need to also be able to protect and defend ourselves while all those other very big changes are happening. And that's going to take time. So we need all of this to happen at the same time. That's where I'm coming from, not to blame women, but to empower women. And in terms of sexual assaults, it's important for women to understand, this may be a little bit of a shift for some people, that the evidence is clear, the evidence is in, that 2/3 of assaults against women are by people we know. This is not just about the stranger danger of years gone by. The guy in the parking lot, I say guy, not to suggest that women also can't be abusers or violators. They can, of course, but the majority of sexual violence against women and domestic violence, which is a whole separate topic, is committed by men against women. So I'm taking the liberty of using that sort of terminology, okay? But mostly it's by people we know. 2/3, actually, of sexual assaults, rape, sexual assaults, and that exists on a continuum, molestation, all levels of sexual assault, is committed by somebody we know. And that's kind of shocking, but it's true. And we need to be prepared for that. Years ago in the self-defense training world, nobody knew that. Nobody thought about that. Nobody taught about that. But it's a fact. And it's a shocking reality. And it's, it's hard for women sometimes to grasp this, but I really want people who are watching this to understand that I'm talking about somebody it could be somebody in your neighborhood, in your community, whose kids go to the same school as your kids, in your spiritual community. There's been a lot of evidence and exposure lately about, everybody from priests and ministers and gurus and yoga teachers and everybody who are exploiting and taking advantage. These are people who are in positions of power, who will take advantage when they can and sort of engage their predator selves, if you will. So you have to understand this and think about this and get this, because it's more complicated. In a certain sense, it's easier to talk about self-defense and to teach self-defense if it was just by the stranger. If it's just a stranger and I'm not invested in my relationship with this person, I don't have to work with this person. This person isn't my boss. Right? This is just a strange person attacking me. Then I'm going to go animal on this person. And it's kind of easier. When it's somebody we know, there's more baggage. It becomes more complicated. And there are some real issues at stake. And I say this without judgment. Women are often having to decipher and discover in themselves, am I willing to strike back against this person? I could lose my career. I could lose everything, right? So, or my life or my kids. So it's far more complicated when it's somebody that we know. It's easier if we didn't, but that's not the reality. So this is something you need to be prepared for. Imagine, if you will, picture somebody in your mind, in your neighborhood, in your sphere, in your inner circle, who one day comes to your house, or you're at a social event, or you're at some party or some picnic or whatever it is, and for whatever reason you're sort of alone with this person, or you are alone with this person, all of a sudden they turn on you and they assault you. It's a shock. It's shocking. It will produce shock to the psyche, not just the body. Disbelief, shock, and all those things will work against you. So if you will, while you're watching this and listening to this, please bear this in mind, and please open your mind to the fact that this is the reality. We have to deal with the reality. We have to deal with what's relevant to women's lives. And 2/3 of assailants are people we know. So prepare for that. Understand that. Know that. Accept that. The more you do, the more you're going to be prepared in mind and in spirit and in body for the fact that, oh my God, this is really happening. And yes, I knew this could happen. And I have to rally now, right? It's somebody you know. Okay, so that's a big picture of something to understand. If you're watching this and you have been assaulted, or have a history of being abused, just to understand that this might be a little difficult. The trauma, the residual effects of sexual violence or assault are real, and they can be lasting, and they require help to get over. So if that's true for you, and it's true for 1 out of 5 women, depending on what sort of statistic we want to go with, then just get support. Just know that what I'm going to be talking about is maybe a difficult topic. It may bring up feelings, and that's sort of what it is. So understand that, get support. Please know that. Please do what you need to do to take care of yourself while you're listening to this. Okay. So all that being said, just as sort of where I'm coming from in the background of this, let's get into some of the concrete material, okay? And that takes me to prevention. And again, saying prevention, meaning what we can do to thwart attacks, because some of this is actually predictable. We can see it. There are certain indicators. There are behavioral clues. All of that is very real, Okay, so let's get into some of the prevention. And one of the key pieces of prevention in terms of sexual assault is the setting and defending of boundaries. And by boundaries, that's like the red lines. That's like where we draw the line, where we say no, where we say stop. It's the line that allows us to keep people who we don't want out of our space and maintain our integrity, okay? But it isn't just spatial. I think people know. Nowadays, it's common knowledge. You can go online, you can read about it, and probably people have, you want to keep people at a certain distance, you want to get your hands up, you want to have assertive body language, you want to use your voice, you want to be assertive, not necessarily aggressive, but assertive to say, stop, that's close enough, or no thanks, I'm not interested, nope, I'm fine, or I said no, really, I'm fine, I mean it. And you sort of dial that up and down accordingly to what's coming at you. You get sort of these dials, if you will. That's how I explain it. So you want to be able to know what your red lines are. I ask women all the time, one of the take-home things I ask them is, what's sacred to you? What is uncompromising? What is non-negotiable? Where do you draw those lines? And then we have to be able to assert that and basically say no in all of us, again, our spirit, our body language, all of that. But boundaries and setting and defending boundaries, and this becomes more relevant around sexual assault, this has to do with knowing who we let into our hearts, who we let into our minds, our spheres, our emotional realities, our space, and what kind of contact, is okay with us. What is the kind of contact? How much contact? What kind of contact are we comfortable with? Do we want? That's another definition of boundaries, and one of the things that we need to look at. And sexual assailants know this, and they will try and sort of get inside of that boundary. So we have to be really, really clear about that, where we say no, who we say no with, and you have to give yourself permission to say no. Women struggle with this, believe me. You have to be willing and able and give yourself permission to sort of ditch the, oh, I don't want to hurt his feelings, or the nice conditioning, be able to say, hey, I said no, or no, I don't want that date, or no, I don't want that next move, or whatever it is. Give yourself permission to say no. Now, setting boundaries is an important skill set. From a predator's point of view, okay, they will test your boundaries. From their point of view, whether it's a stranger or somebody you know, they're thinking, hey, what is her response to my intrusion? Can I get this close? Can I talk to her in this tone of voice? Can I touch her like this or touch her like this? What will she do? These are like tick the box kind of things for him. Again, I'm saying him because most assaults against women, sexual assaults, are by men. So I'm saying him. And so there's a whole kind of list, in a sense, that a predator will go down in a period of time. And it could be a compressed period of time or over dating or months, a relationship or whatever, right? So your job is to see this, alert to this, and to be able to kind of, stop it and go, wow, I'm uncomfortable. This is one of the other important prevention techniques, is knowing what makes you uncomfortable. And this is a whole thing, is what does your body feel when you're uncomfortable? Trusting that, being able to go, oh, I got that feeling in my stomach, or that weird feeling up my spine, or I just walked into this room and I'm getting this weird feeling and I'm uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable, that's a good enough reason to leave, or to say no, or to exit a situation, or to refuse to let a person get any closer. If you're uncomfortable, that's a good enough reason. So I want to tell you a story about somebody I know, and it will encapsulate a lot of this. It's a story, I'll abbreviate, and it's a story of a woman. It became a very well-known story, actually, where she went to Italy, had a wonderful trip, and it was her last night, and it was Rome, and it's operatic and larger than life, and it's a Friday night, and friends introduced her to this guy, and they said, hey, he's a swell kind of guy. Well, let me insert here, never ever give your trust away. Even if somebody says, hey, this is a great person has to earn your trust, right? Okay, and I say this with absolutely no blame towards this person, but just the things we learn in hindsight, right? So she met this guy, she went on a date, she had a really nice time, they went out to dinner. However, he isolated her. He got a table in the back of the place where people couldn't see. And he started, touching her a little bit. And again, he's looking at, will she let me do this? Is this okay? And at the time for her, it felt okay. It was Italy. It was a Friday night. Everything is bigger than life, all that kind of good stuff. So it was okay with her. He also started to disarm her fears. And this is a key point that predators will do. They will try to gain your trust and disarm your fears, take away your fears. And there are various techniques they can use for that. And I strongly encourage anybody watching this to make sure that you read a book by Gavin de Becker called The Gift of Fear, because he goes into a whole slew of what some of these particular behavioral indicators are. And that was all encompassed in this story. For example, he calls it forced teaming, where it's like a predator makes like you and he are the same, and it uses a lot of the we language and kind of tries to bond you together when you don't really feel bonded together, but he will do that to make you forget about yourself and be like one. So there's a whole series of techniques, for lack of better words, that he also used that night in testing her boundaries. They even went back to his apartment, and he was a gentleman. Tick the box. Can I isolate her? Yes. Score for him. So they go back to his beautiful, lovely apartment overlooking the central square in Rome. And he's a gentleman. And she's like, wow, this is great. He's a nice guy. I'm having the time of my life. This is wonderful. I had one drink. It was all great. Then they go back into the town. Now he's starting to ply her with alcohol. That's another clue. This is another red flag. If somebody's trying to ply you with alcohol, right? And he's now starting to control her behavior. Hey, honey, let's go this way. Let's look at this. She's like, hey, I want to go over here. No, let's go this. He's testing. Will she let me control her? Now, none of these things alone mean it's a bad guy. I mean, we all know people who do this or that. But when you start to see a cluster of behavior, a constellation of behaviors of somebody disrespecting, trying to control you, trying to get you to be like one person, testing your boundaries. Can I touch her like this? Can I do like this? And you start to feel uncomfortable. That's it. It's time to get out. It's time to go, wow, there's something wrong with this picture. I don't even know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm uncomfortable and I'm seeing this and this and this. That's it. I need to draw my red line, right? So in this particular story, one more time they went back to his apartment for a final nightcap. And it's her last night. And she's having the time of her life. She doesn't really have a real reason to fear him because, hey, everything is bigger than life there. So they go back to his place. This time he switches out because he's got her. He throws away the key. He locks the doors. You're not going anywhere. Turns out to be a serial predator who locked her into his studio apartment in Rome and proceeded to attack her. Our heroine, gets away. She ends up fighting, using flight and fight to escape, and actually jumps over his balcony even and decides, not me, nope, I'm not going to let this happen. And she brings all her skills to bear, her physical skills, her fighting spirit, her determination. She just pulled herself together. And this is an important thing you have to do, is collect yourself, gather yourself, pull yourself together. And she literally fled and jumped over the balcony to escape, and she got away. They later captured him and found him, and they charged him, and she ended up going back and pressing charges. But the point I share that story is because there was this whole sort of pattern of predatory behavior, and that can be compressed into an evening, like it was there in this case, or it can take time. Somebody gets to know you, they seem like a nice person, They will try to get close to you and gain this trust and proximity. People that we know have proximity to us. It makes sense. They're in our sphere. Their kids go to our kids' schools, right? They're in our, so it isn't just the stranger. Now, stranger attacks happen, and I'm not going to minimize that, and I am going to get into techniques for fighting back against that. There are lots of stories of women on the jogging trail and here and there where a person is an opportunist and just, boom, attacks. But the majority of attacks are not that way. So please try to understand this. Now, in the story that I just said, there's a couple of key points that you have to understand. I said, if you're uncomfortable, trust that, set a limit, set boundaries, say no, be willing to say no, be willing to say, ooh, that makes me uncomfortable, that's close enough, I'm not interested, all that stuff, and more. The other piece, and this is a key point, is that you have to deny privacy and control. Why? For a predator, a criminal, to commit their act, sexual violence, sexual assault, they need privacy and they need control. They need to isolate you, like in the case I just described, right? And they need to have some way of controlling your behavior, your movements, your actual physical movements, or your behavior, attitude, and kind of sway your behavior. If you deny privacy, this is what you want to disallow, privacy and control. If you can deny privacy and control, you've reduced your odds hugely. Okay, whether it's somebody you know or it's a stranger. Deny, don't allow privacy and control. Part of that is also a general, it's one of the only nevers in self-defense, is never allow yourself to be taken to a secondary crime scene. Now, by that, I mean, and you might not think of it as a crime scene. That's a crime scene from the point of view of a predator. So you're at a nice social event, you're having a nice time, maybe you're drinking a little bit, and there's a person, you know them a little bit, but you don't know the person well, and now they're trying to get you to go from the nice public social setting into the back room. Okay, that's still a secondary scene because it's not dramatic. It's not like, obviously, don't get in a car with somebody and go to a secondary crime scene. If they rob you in the parking lot, you don't then go with them to a secondary crime scene. That's kind of public general knowledge by now. But it could be the front of the building to the back by the dumpster. It could be the nice jogging trail into the woods. The social scene with all the people into the back little private room. Because if a person has harmful intent, they will, at the second location, they will always have more control over you. You'll be more isolated. It will be more difficult for you to call attention, to get help, etc. I'm not saying it's an impossible situation. It isn't, but it's far more difficult. So, and there's very few nevers in self-defense. If somebody instructs you and they say, never do this or always do that, run away. Because really, there's no such thing as never or always. Very few. But never allow yourself to be taken against your will, for sure. And even just taken by somebody that you don't know, to be moved from one place to another. If you don't really know them and trust them, absolutely, that's always dicey. Because that makes, if they have harmful intent, if they're a predator, then they're going to have a lot more control over you. So that's part of the privacy and control. Disallow privacy and control, set boundaries, trust your instincts, be willing to say no. Self-defense is about resistance. That's another way that nowadays we frame it. It's about resistance training. And in the studies that are done, and there have been a lot of them over the years, and I studied every single one of the most important skill sets that women learn is to resist coercion. That's critical. And these are not typical you don't get this in a typical martial arts class, okay? I mean, these are self-defense is very different in that sense. But you have to learn, you have to be able to resist coercion, because manipulation, deception, coercion, these are the tactics that will be used against a woman in order to isolate her and to gain compliance and control. So you must practice assertiveness. Assertiveness training is a critical feature in what makes self-defense training effective. And this partly means using your voice and your words. It's not just the physical. We'll get to that in a minute. But it means saying things. It means speaking up. It means saying no. It means finding your voice. It means alerting the proprietor that I'm uncomfortable with this person. I need somebody to walk me to my car. Yes, all that sort of stuff. Your voice, your words. Most attacks against women don't just start with somebody coming up and clobbering you. It's not a bar fight. Most attacks and assaults against women start with words, dialogue, conversation, interaction, something relational. So you need to pay attention to all of your relationships. I tell women, and it's one of the things I teach, is go home and I want you to do an inventory, a sort of silent meditation inventory of the people in your lives, and see what comes up for you if you enter the query, I'm uncomfortable with. Or there's something I don't feel good about this. It's within the context of our relationship. Not necessarily our most significant others, although it can be, but our whole sphere of people we know. Or maybe people we hardly know. Take this inventory. It's about looking into our relationships and our people in our sphere. Okay, so this is really part of the whole prevention model, and it's a real shift. It's a radical shift from just looking for the bad guys in the parking lot. Yes, external awareness. Yes, situational awareness. Is somebody eyeballing you? Ooh, that's not good. Go back into where you came from. Don't get in that car. Don't let them follow you, right? Somebody's asking you too many questions. They're probing. They're getting too close. They're hanging out there just kind of staring at you. Or every time you turn around, there's that same person again. Hey, that's not a good sign. That's a red flag. Somebody's crossed the street and it's getting too close. They're following your patterns. They're following your movements. They're engaging you. And you've already said, no, I'm not interested, or thanks, no thanks. I don't need any help, or I'm good, fine, thank you. And they're still not taking no as an answer. That's a red flag. That's not good. If somebody won't take no for an answer, whoa, red flags. The sensory should be alerted. Like, yikes. Because a decent person will. We're decent people. If somebody says to me or you, I'm guessing, hey, I don't need any help, I'm good, thanks, you walk away, right? If somebody doesn't accept your no, chances are you're being manipulated. Something is off there. It's not good, okay? So these are behavioral clues, environmental behavioral clues. Anything out of place in an environment, it's summer and there's a fellow in a big heavy coat. Hey, that's not good. What's he got under that coat, right? So yes, external, but also internal. Tune in. Women, tune in. Pay attention to how you feel. What makes you uncomfortable? And all these things I just said about don't allow privacy and control. You have to be your own best protector. We're not waiting to be saved. We're saving ourselves. You own your body. You own your body. It's yours. Nobody gets to own it. It's sovereignty. I talk about this also often as your body's like a country. It has borders. It's sovereignty. It's not a democracy. It's a dictatorship. You own it. Somebody coming in or putting their hands on you should be by invitation only. Our dear friends, we hug, we ride close. I love you, kissy kissy, right? Family, friends. Somebody delivering a package is going to be some natural feet apart. Here's your package. There's a natural sense of what's appropriate, right? What happens? And if this was a class instead of this video remote thing, in a class, we'd be doing all kinds of exercises around this for you to determine where is that stop? What is that limit? What makes you feel uncomfortable? How do you feel? You know, we all know these feelings, but we need to honor them, pay attention to them. All these things become critically important in sexual assaults and preventing sexual assaults in the ways that we can. Now, I want to say, that being said, again, no blame. A woman can be a black belt. You can be a black belt. You can be a power feminist. You can be street smart. You can be all these great things. And we can still be assaulted or somebody trying to assault us. And it's no fault of our own. We can do all the right things. Why? Because in their minds, they feel entitled to take without consent. That's their mindset. That's the predator mindset, right? He's a predator and you are prey. Understand that. Put yourself in the mindset of the predator. Okay, so don't doubt yourself. That's the last thing I want to say, and then get into the strategies. A predator is very good at making you doubt yourself. They have majored in all these things. They're very good at deception. They're very good at getting you to doubt yourself. To make you go, like the story I told you about that woman. At some point, she was like, oh, how can I be doubting this man? He's so nice, right? Give yourself the benefit of the doubt. We women are used to saying, oh, this is a nice person. We don't want to doubt them. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt. If any of those alarms or sensations or red flags go off, give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you don't even know why. Maybe it's not clear why. But your gut is telling you something is wrong here. This person is moving too fast, too much, too in, too much, trying to move me or control. Trust yourself. It's critical. So many times in hindsight, when we get to rewind the tape, there's that moment or moments where we can say, and I say we because I include myself in this. I'm an expert in my field. I am. And I have been victimized younger in my past. I mean, it happens. Give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Okay, let's move on from here. You've done all the right things. So we need to get into what do you do if an assault actually happens, right? Now, assaults happen in every position. I'm sitting down right now. A person could be assaulted sitting down, assaulted standing up, assaulted in a typical classical sort of lying down sexual assault position. Excuse me while I go to stand up. So I want to show and tell, talk a little bit about what do you do, no nonsense. If you have to go physical, everything else has failed to no fault of your own, what are you going to do? You're in an upright position, a pin position. Somebody's pinned you. You've said no, you've done all the right things, and now they're on you, right? Okay, so I want to go over some very important strategies. First of all, when it comes to physical defense, if nothing else, your goal is to escape. You're not trying to overpower somebody. You're not trying to do submission. You're trying to escape. And that means you have to hurt them. And that means you have to be primal and very ferocious. My whole motif is find your fears and learn to bring it to bear. There's a physical piece of this and there's an emotional piece of this. All right, imagine for a moment you're pinned. Here's what will happen. In a sexual assault, a predator will use their greater size, strength, intimidation tactics, terror tactics, threats, In effect, they will use all their dominant strategies to gain compliance and control. This is what's going to happen at the zenith moment, at the moment of truth. And they will overpower, they will get close. Sexual assaults are not sparring fights. They are hot breath on your face range. They are up close and personal. They are ultimately close quarters, and they are terrifying. And make no mistake, all of these pieces are there. Okay? Very close. So here's one of the important, I'm going to go over a few key principles. One is you don't want to struggle. You don't want to push on a chest, on a person's chest. It's not going to work, okay? Guys are strong in their chest and their upper bodies. They have far greater muscle mass and all that. You don't want to struggle. You want to explode. So, if, for example, if you're pinned in a up against the wall kind of thing, if you can get and a person's hands are on you, I say good news. Get his hands on you. It's all about the hands. His hands are his greatest weapon. Great, trap them in place. Bam! You can strike. Boom! Explode. Hunt for opportunities. You can go for the eyes, the face, the throat, the ears, the groin, the lower body, the knees, the feet. You're going to get you stop, strike, now, bam! You have to be explosive. Okay, you can't be passive. You have to be very explosive. You have to go from 0, oh my God, to 100%. Now! I'm a big fan of ear claps. You might be able to tell, okay? So you want to be able to be very explosive. You want to hunt for your openings, hunt for opportunities, and go in and be explosive and be animalistic. This is a time to be very primal. Your goal is to do what you can to escape. Is there a handy object? Can I pick up something from my environment and slam it into him? Can I drive it into his throat? Anything like that. Can I use trickery? I actually know women who have been able to trick an assailant into letting them please first refresh in the bathroom, or let's go outside on the porch and get a breath of fresh air and have a drink. And then make a beeline for the door. Think. Strategize. Think. Right? Explosive. Go 100%, no holds barred into your target, into vulnerable zones. And repeat it. You can't just use one move and go, ooh, how'd I do, right? You have to strike and hit and strike and yell. Fire. Draw attention to what's happening. Stomp on the floor. Throw something through a window. This is the kind of thing that you have to do. It's not as technical as it is primal and gross skills, okay? Now, so element of surprise, hunt for your openings, be ballistic, go 100% into a target. You can lull a person. Try to lower his aggressive arousal. This is really the essence of de-escalating. But it happens in situations like this too. What if you put a hand on a person's thigh? They're right in front of you attacking you. Lower their aggressive arousal. I'm not going to do anything. I'm with you. And you sort of play along in order to lower some of that adrenaline. And then once that's happened, then you're going to go, bam! Drive up into the throat. Slam. Go from 0 to 100%. The element of surprise, explosiveness, vulnerable targets, using your strengths against vulnerable targets. Now, lying down. Obviously, this is a terrifying position. A lot of the same things that you can do standing apply to lying down. If a person is going to rape you, in plain English, their face or their groin is going to be in your strike zone at some point. Okay? If you're lying down, their face, their groin, and you have to collect yourself. This is one of the key other techniques that I really teach, and this is more of the internal emotional preparedness. Collect yourself. I'm going to stand back up for a second. Imagine, if you will, it's a lying down position. Breathe, focus, pull yourself down, go into your belly, settle, collect yourself, think, focus. Be present, because we want to escape. We want to leave our bodies. We want to say, this isn't happening. Prepare yourself on the inside. Collect yourself. Fear is going to be happening. Adrenaline is flooding. We need to take control of all of that energy. And it's going to be intense. There will be times you will leave your body, maybe, but you need to pull yourself back. So if you're in a lying down position, if the face is there, boom, you can strike right into the face if somebody's on top of you. There are various techniques. I'm not going to be able to go into a lot of techniques here, but if somebody's sitting on your hips, you want to throw them off your hips. You can plant a foot. You can throw them off. It's called basing and bucking and bridging. Get them, throw them off with your hips and then attack. You can, on a lying down position, use your knees. You can elbow somebody. You can go right into the eyes. It's still very close-up stuff. The big thing I want to say, one of the biggest things you can do, one of the most used techniques from actual stories, is to get your legs in between you and an assailant and use them like battering rams and fire off your legs as weapons. Just slam them. Pull your leg back and fire it out. Try to pull your legs in between. Now, there are some techniques that have to be used in order to do that. But if you see somebody and they're coming in on you, famous story comes to my head about a Hollywood celebrity, a woman on a bed, she's pushed back. He's standing stark naked in front of her. Draw your leg back and fire it out like a battering ram. Kick, 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 kick. Unstoppable. Use your legs like battering rams. You're not pushing, you're kicking. Completely different in energy, in focus, in intent. You're not going, oh, please get away, bad guy, pedaling your legs softly to push them away. You're taking control. You're loading up your leg. My arm was my leg. And you're, bam, slamming it and slamming it and slamming it and slamming it. Driving into the person in a vulnerable area and shoving the person and running out the door, or getting something in your hands. Again, cracking him in the face, going for the eyes, going for the throat, using your elbows, using your palms, using your knees, using the bottom of your foot into the face. Now, I know this is kind of ugly stuff, but that's what it takes. If you're having to escape a sexual assault, this is really what it takes. You've got to be primal. Don't worry about complicated moves. And the last thing I want to say is the power of the emotions. 2 words, F, fear and fury. I'm all about the Fs. We have to weaponize our fear. Weaponize your fear. Turn it outward, and your fury. In the post-Me Too movement, these are 2 key words I have read thousands of times. I was so afraid, and I'm furious. Channel the fear and the fury. These are highly charged emotions, and use them. These are part of your weapon. We're smaller than most guys. We do have disadvantages. So we have to pull from every available source of power that we have. And that's not just our physical powers. That's not enough. It's our emotional powers. It's our determination. Emotional powers. Collect yourself. Gather in your belly. Breathe. Pull yourself together like a coiled snake. Coiling, waiting for the right moment. And when you unleash and when you go 1,000%. And you bring that fear, and you bring your fury. You bring your anger and your fury and your power, and you drive it into your target. That's what you have to do. And that's really what it takes. And that's your choice. The final thing is about choice. I never say to women, always fight. honestly, I want women to be able to have the options and the skills to assess their situation. And if you choose to fight, if you don't fight back, if you choose to submit, that's a viable choice. And in a lot of rapes, there are windows of opportunity. It happens over phases and over time. So maybe you have to submit to some piece of it and then you fight. It's a choice. We need choices and options. If you choose to fight back, you have to go 1,000% with the whole of your heart and your body. And solidarity matters. Women, this is not a solo fight. If this happens, if you get violated, get help, get support, reach out, get a community, do what you can, voice, tell, get help. We're all in this together. I will end on this note. One woman's victory is every woman's victory.
Incredible message and advice, Melissa. Such a great inspirational and also encouraging message that you shared with us, and I really do appreciate that.